Hello, friends. It is January 4th on the day that I'm recording this video. We are officially in the land of 2026, and I am somebody who thinks about goals often. This channel will have conversation around the creating and actioning and problem solving and achieving of the goals. It'll have all of those things on this channel. And in a previous video, I had spoken about how I was working on manifesting my dream life by the time I'm 40. So I turned 38 last year. The video was around October, so it was like, okay, this is the last quarter of the year. And I took some time in my journal, because my journal is actually, it's one of the ways that I manifest things the most, because for me, not only ruminating and thinking and getting lost in reverie of what I want my life to look like, but actually organizing those thoughts and putting them in my journal in like a bullet format or something like that is just another way that we can make little steps into achieving goals, and then having something like, a habit tracker or some way that you're keeping track of your goals and what behaviors are moving you in alignment to those goals, and is another way of just kind of keeping it very much in your face. For me, and I spoke about this in previous videos, if I have certain goals, but I have them put away, they're not where I see them when I'm walking by all the time, it's easier for me to neglect them. It's easier for me to get lost in the million other tasks and responsibilities that show up in a day-to-day basis, and it's easy for them to slip through the cracks. And I found this especially in classes. For example, I purchased an astrology workshop, an astrology certificate course, like a professional astrological, oh my gosh, a professional astrologer certificate course. I purchased it for my birthday 2 birthdays ago. So July of 24. Yes. And I haven't gotten far on that at all. Now, I will say that the format that the teacher used for their astrology course, I mean, right now it's just like introduction. So it's a class before the class, but it's really hard for my learning style to retain what's being said. So that's challenging, but it still is one of those things where if the goal isn't written down, and I found this especially with bigger goals that I want to accomplish versus behaviors and habits that I want to implement on a day-to-day or every other day basis. But if it's a class, it just seems like if I'm not scheduling it, if I'm not saying, okay, today I'm going to put an hour down on the calendar to schedule, working on the astrology class, then it just never gets done. And that has been a habitual problem for me across the decades with almost every class that I've started from a passion. This is the kind of person that I'm moving towards kind of space. And I don't know if it's because of procrastination. I don't know if it's because a lack of discipline, but 2 of those energies are very prominent for me. And so, when I'm talking about goals, when I'm working on my goals, when I'm looking at my life and how I want things to look, those are some of the energies that do show up as roadblocks, and that I do have to be aware of and I can make steps towards. So when I originally created my list of goals so what I did was I was like, okay, I want to manifest my dream life by the time I'm 40. There At the time, there were 7 quarters within the year from that point until my 40th birthday. And at this point, there would be 6 quarters. And so I was just like, perfect, brain dump, let's see what shows up. So brain dump ended me up with like 25 items that were I to accomplish these things, I could look at myself, look at my life, look at myself and be like, dream life accomplished by 40, queen, yes. And then I was like, that's way too much. So let's narrow it down and do 1 primary goal, 1 secondary goal per quarter. Perfect. So let's work on that. So what I found really quick within the first quarter that I just passed, this last October, November, December, is that one of my goals was to finish this fence project around the house. Now, that fence, to do the entire thing around my house, it's not like a very professional, it's kind of a, hey, let's get 5 panels at a time situation offline and we can just hammer them in and put like, this low-key 4-foot fence around the house. Having that be a primary goal for Q4 of 2025, being like a $5,000 project in the middle of holiday season, not a very realistic goal. Yeah, I was able to get quite a decent section done, accomplished within that goal. But that goal was not accomplished. And so, it popped up where it's like, okay, when we don't accomplish a goal that we had not been very strategic about what the finances were that we could invest in certain goals, it's just like, this would be my dream life. I wish that I had $10,000 to just finish this fence along with the holiday season. That's great, but like the reality is we get paid every other week and we have a fixed income. So, and could it be where maybe I just didn't hustle enough, or maybe I didn't do this, or I could have worked. Yeah, of course. But like, I'm not, it's a goal that I'm setting for myself. So if I don't make it, I don't make it. So the other day I was thinking, okay, if I don't accomplish a goal within the quarter, then is that goal just moved to the side and I move to the next goal, because I had set aside like 7 primary goals and 7 secondary goals. And I realized right away that I shot way too far. I set my sights way too high, unrealistic. This is something that you will hear certain people talk about online, is like, shooting for the moon. But it also has to be realistic, because I'm not really in a place where I'm going to overexert myself and hustle unnecessarily for something that doesn't really matter, right? I've spent a lot of time in my 30s doing a lot of healing work. And some of that healing work is like around the sacral chakra energy, which is our enoughness. I am enough. I've had enough. I've done enough. I'm good enough. It's got to be enough, right? So finding this balance of like pushing the limits to challenge ourselves against maybe behaviors or procrastination or some of these things that limit us from achieving our goals, while also understanding like capacity is a very real thing. I'm going to have to reevaluate. I'm going to have to re-look at the list of things that I would like to accomplish by the time I'm 40. And I'm going to have to shorten that list down big time. I was watching this amazing podcast today, Diary of a CEO. I think he was interviewing, His name was like Christian Williamson or something. I'll type it out. And I know that I've seen this guy's shorts on, or reels. You know, I've seen the TikToks, I've seen the reels, but I haven't seen like a sit down interview with this guy. Mwah! Chef's kiss. It has, so far, it's been the best podcast that I've watched because I watch them on YouTube, like in a long time. I'll link it. But this guy talks a lot about goals, talks a lot about productivity, and just has a very, you can tell that he's done a lot of his own work because some of the buzz phrases that people say, he's like, actually, let's be realistic about it. What do you actually have capacity for? And in this interview, he's like, you can work on, you know, getting a better job and finding a boyfriend, but like that might be it for the year. And I was like, dang, I'm over here with a million goals all the time. And I'm like telling myself I'm lazy, you know, if I'm, you know, scrolling on TikTok too much or doing some of these things. But I'm wondering if having more of a regimented plan around my day where you actually schedule in what relaxation looks like, I wonder if that would be good for me. And I don't know, some people might hear that and be like, dude, that is so weird. But it's just good to know. It's good to know, like, how much time am I wasting on TikTok? How many nights am I like, I don't really want to work after work, so I'm just going to watch some Netflix until I go to bed. You know, and having those times are great if it's like, okay, like 2 hours this week, TikTok. Yes. 2 to 4 nights, TV. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on certain things for me. But especially those times where it's like scheduling, okay, working 2 hours this week on the class, you know, and actually putting it in. And what I did was I bought, so I have a few calendars. I picked up the Llewellyn's Planetary Guide this year. I always do the Witch's Date book as a witchy girly myself. I really like that. I have my habit tracker that I flashed earlier. That has like, you know, some of my habits and my goals, important dates, and all of those things. And then I also got one of those big like desk calendars, so that way I can look at the week. Again, just it's on my desk, so every time I walk by, it's going to be in my face. Eventually, I want to get one of those stand-up desks, like a smaller one that has a slant, so it's just for this calendar, you know? And so when I walk by, it's like my creative planning space. That way I can schedule in those times for classes and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really interesting in that podcast when they said, hey, dude, a couple things a year. Like, you can be anything. This is what he was saying. He's like, you can be anything, but you can't be everything right now. You only have so much. Your capacity is only so much, you know? And so if you're going to add something, do you need to take something away? And that could look like anything. It could look like a couple hours of vegging on the couch. Or it could look like, you know, a habit that isn't really accurate anymore. When we talk about the changing of the year, there's a conversation, and it was something that I was thinking about November, actually. I was like, why do I need to wait for January to start putting goals into place? If there are certain things that I'm working on or that I would like to see improvement on now, technically I could focus on starting to put a plan into place for these goals in December. I don't need to wait till January. And that's absolutely true. And I think that there is being somebody who's very much into the spirit of the thing, the energy of the thing, the magic of the thing, the woo, the woo of the thing. Energetically speaking, saying, I'm not going to wait for the first of the year, I'm ready now, has such a vibe of taking charge. It's like a take charge, confident energy. That's great alignment, great resonance.
But alternatively, something to consider that I wanted to point out and forgot to capture in this video is alternatively, if you're somebody that needs the boost of the collective, then of course, waiting to start working on manifesting goals or declaring goals for a time like January 1st, when the majority of the collective is doing those similar things, allows you to kind of ride the collective wave of intention. And so, if you want to add additional power and gusto with your goals, that could be another really great alternative.
So that might be your cup of tea. But especially when we're turning a chapter, moving from one year to a next, it's like we finished a book. We're picking up a new book. It's more of that energy versus the turning a chapter, turning a page kind of vibe. But it's a great time to reevaluate, to look and see, like, what are my goals? What would I like my life to look like? If I could change one or two things in the direction of what I want my life to look like, what would those be? Would they be something focused on my health? A lot of times we think about our health in some capacity, whether that is our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. In this reality, it's very important for us to focus on the self in certain capacities. How can I embody love more? How can I nourish and nurture my soul more? Who am I? What is my spirit? Who do I want to be? Where do I let fear rule my life? Whatever. So focusing on improving the self, focusing on self-growth is an important aspect of how we are interacting and engaging in life. And by doing that, our influence on other, fill in the blank, people, places, experiences, frequencies, energy, cosmic resonance, our influence on other is so much more heightened and beneficial. It's beneficial by us doing this work. We show up better. We interact better. We forgive better. We move through life in peace and resonance and good vibes more often. But we can also hold space for the pain, for the darkness, for the shadow, for the argument within reason, because we've done that work. And we also understand that no one's perfect. That's important. It's also really important for us to look at how we are engaging with other. What's our community look like? Are we so focused on being internal and being cosmic that we're never outside engaging with others? So the best they can do is catch some vibes when they walk by your apartment or something. Like, how are we engaging with others? So it's great to think about those things and to think about how we can continue to move make movements in whatever capacity is right for us each year. You know, whatever's right. There have been certain years where I was struggle busting it. And honestly, when I moved back to the Midwest where I am now, the first year that I was here, I was struggle busting it hard. And I was like, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity for me to focus on how can I embody happiness, bliss, and love while I have absolutely nothing. Can I do that? Can I still open my gratitude journal and focus on happiness and love and bliss, even though I'm sleeping on the floor, you know, or something like that? And I mean, if we don't get lost in the tangle within our identity that we sometimes experience when we go through hardship, and we can just kind of take a step back or bird's eye view look at the situation and be like, okay, you know, lesson learned. I see it. I forgive myself. What is my truth now? What is the priority now? And that's really the bread and butter with it all, you know? And I think that really living in 2026, I think people are starting to catch on with an energy that some people have been speaking about for a few years now, which is like the hustle life is a lie. Yes, be ambitious. Yes, strive for excellence, strive for growth, but find your harmony, find your balance with also making sure there's room for romance, making sure there's room for peace, there's room for playfulness, there's room for relaxation and creativity. In a world of technology and information and all of that stuff, carving the time for creativity and playfulness and love and joy and perhaps community, it's where it's at. It's where it's at for sure. So before we wrap up today, I did want to pull some cards. I spoke about in my last video how I was watching this podcast on YouTube where a medium was interviewed, and she was like, you don't need any more readings. And I was like, that's for damn sure. And I spoke about it in my last video, but I also said, like, I do like to occasionally pull some cards to catch a vibe, to connect with spirit and my spirit guides and the collective consciousness, and to see like what is in store for us in 2026 and what is in store for us in January. So I have this amazing deck my kiddo got me from Yule, like a pink. There we go, gold foil, and then the cards of like dark edging and just like this beautiful lighting. And actually it looks great with the light. You can still kind of see depending on the angle. Anyway, I wanted to use this deck. So for now, I just want to connect with spirit and just see if we can get a few cards, like 3 cards, for some of the energies that we are going to be seeing in 2026. What we need to focus on letting go of and what we need to focus on bringing in. So the first card that we have showing up here is this good, this shimmeriness. First card that we have here is the Wheel of Fortune. Energy showing up in 2026. I've actually felt this. I have done readings for people and I'm like, I can't even tell you what the future looks like because you won't be able to grasp it in your mind. I do feel like we are moving into a time of more abundance. I feel like the curtain to the veil to like the future energies, we're right there of like more abundance, more advanced, better resourced. You know, we've been kind of riding the fumes of outdated systems for the wrong reasons for a long time. And I feel like 2026 is really moving in the direction of abundance. Okay, so with the Wheel of Fortune, it is Jupiter energy. It is luck. It is prosperity. It is alignment. So with this being the energy of 2026, it's a great time to start focusing on taking action on your goals. You know, whatever you have been feeling like maybe divine timing wasn't there, maybe there were certain things in your way. For me personally, it was lessons that I had to go through. I went through like spirals and cycles as I strove and fell and strove and failed and strove and reset, you know, because different things just made the situation misaligned and incompatible. And so all of those times that I failed, as much as it hurt, as much as I self-shamed, I was learning lessons. I was learning so much about what my boundaries were and, you know, how I wanted it to look and what would work well, but what really wouldn't work well. And the same might be true for you, you know, but it doesn't mean that those old dreams need to repeat themselves if newer visions and newer beckonings and callings are guiding you forward. You know, let those be your North Star. But just know that in 2026, things are very much aligned for easier success, riches, and fortune than has been available in the past. Know that we may be limited by our personal beliefs with some of those things. So definitely focusing on holding space for what your relationship is like with finances is going to be where it's at. Yeah. So the next card we're going to do is what do we need to focus on bringing in? This one here leapt out, so obviously it wanted to volunteer. Ace of Wands energy. What to focus on bringing in. This is definitely aligned with the message that I was just saying with the Wheel of Fortune. The wand energy is fiery energy. It is passion. It is drive. They are goals. So with the wand energy, the wand is also, you know, for the magic worker, for the witch, it is the extension. So we use the wand as a channeling tool to extend from ourselves and direct magic, direct energy to the purpose of manifestation. So with the aces, Ace of Wands, that is a new beginning. That is focusing on what is new, what you are creating, what you would like to change. So this is a perfect year to my spirit guides are like, yeah, remember it's a year one, like you've been watching all those videos, and that's true. And this aligns with that. So, you know, in the 9-year cycle, based on numerology, 2026 is a 1 year because you would add 2, 2, 6, 2026. You would add all of those digits, it would equal 10. You would add the 1 and 0, break it down to a 1. So 2026 is a 1 year, which is the same number as the ace. So definitely aligned with that new beginning vibe. There's going to be a lot of new things going on this year. So, the spirit team is saying lean into those new things. Be excited about the new things. Reassure yourself that you're ready for the new things, but also take the space and time to sit with yourself, to sit with your soul, and to make sure that the new things that are coming into your life are aligned and are what's best for you and are what you want. Because sometimes people in our environment get excited about new things and want to share it with us or force it on us. And we're like, whoa, I don't know if that's my new thing. It's yours, and that's great. And I'm cheering you on, super happy for you. But is it mine too? Spend some time with that. Okay. Lastly, for 2026, energy to focus on letting go of. What are we letting go of this year? Oh. What we have here is the Hermit card. And we also had the Two of Pentacles that showed up with that. With the Hermit card, this has been an energy that has been showing up, I would say the last quarter. Hermit card is connected with Virgo, I believe, Virgo energy. Yeah, I believe so. But it's that solitude. It is that stillness, the quiet in the night. The twinkly light in the dark forest that you're trusting and guiding along your path. It's the trust, it's the intuition. And it's interesting that it's saying like this energy is what to focus on releasing. But what I feel with this is sometimes we get so lost in I need to meditate about it. I need to heal. I need to recover. I need to take space. I need to separate. We're still recovering from COVID and just how easy it was for us to all just become hermit crabs and introverts. This definitely can have an introvert sort of vibe where it's like, I'm at home, this is my comfy space, and I'm happy here and this is what I'm going to do. So I do feel like the energy of the Wheel of Fortune and the energy of, the Ace of Wands, these are active energies. These are energies that require stepping out, stepping through, beginning, collaborating, communicating. So many of us are scared to share of ourselves for whatever reason. And the world needs more courage. And I don't say that from a place of I've got courage, so I'm telling y'all. I'm saying it from a place of I also need this for myself. The world needs more courage. And it is time for us to take all that we have learned and experienced and accumulated and what has become who we are and share of that, whatever that looks like. It's going to be kind of wrapped around certain goals that are showing up. So the energy of focusing on releasing this is like, hey, you don't need to just like keep it in the brainstorming phase. You don't need to keep hiding in your personal space. It's time to come out of the shadows, come out wherever you are. We love Lestat, Queen of the Damned in this house, so there's a little stat for you. So the Two of Pentacles also showed up as an energy to focus on releasing for 2026. This could be pointing to that hustle life as well. This also could be like juggling too much. What's coming through is playing both sides, playing both cards. There might be an energy of I'm scared to commit to a decision, and so I'm playing both teams or I'm playing both sides because then I don't have to commit and I'm safe here. But in that space, we don't grow and we learn how to trust ourselves. We develop more of that intuitive nature when we commit. When we say, I've seen enough green flags within this person, situation, experience, what have you, that I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say, this is worth the risk. I'm going to commit. I'm not going to be so wishy-washy with it forever. And I was just actually journaling about that very same thing because there was this opportunity that showed up and it had some traits that kind of were a little scammy, but then it had a lot of these other traits that weren't. And so for a while I was kind of going back and forth like, is this a scam, is this not a scam, is this legit, is this not legit, and we are so always walled up, geared up, and ready to call out the scam artist. Oh, I see you over there. We're so quick to be like that. And a little dose of suspicion is very root chakra energy. It keeps us safe. So having some of that energy is very important, but you don't want to have that energy forever, or it shouldn't be leading the interactions or the relationship forever. And that's what I was journaling about the other day, because I was like, this opportunity has a little red flag, a little bit green flag, but it has more green flags than red flags, to the point of valid versus scam. And I was writing and saying, at some point we need to trust. And it's the same in any relationship. When you meet somebody new, like I've been a single girly for years and I'm just starting to date somebody new. When you have a new relationship, you're weighing out the pros and cons. You're looking at the green flags, you're looking at the red flags, but at some point you have seen enough of one or the other to be like, okay, I'm ready to commit, or I'm ready to say this isn't it, right? Commit or this isn't it. Saying it or we're committing, right? And then at that point, you have faith and you jump in and you enjoy it and you let yourself relax a little bit. That doesn't mean that you become a doormat. That doesn't mean that you don't still have those alerts on the back burner. So if the situation were to change, you could have some alarm bells that sound and you say, oh, whoa, what's happening here now? Like it's only been a month, we committed, but like, what is this? And then you can kind of reevaluate. But the art of commitment it's important. And it's not just in romance, but it's in like commitments to ourselves within our goals, or things that we make, things that we say that we're going to do for other people in our lives, following through, trusting ourselves, being decisive and trusting that decision. All of these things actually really nurture us and condition us to have an identity that is aligned with power, wisdom, reliability, integrity. Yeah. Juicy. So good. And the thing is we need that. So those are some of the messages that I got for this upcoming year. There will be more videos showing up for the year, for January, all that good stuff. I am somebody that does a little bit of that juggling. I've got a day job. I do YouTube when I can. You know, I'm supporting a family of 6, 5 cats, and 1 kiddo. Family of 7 then. So, you know, we YouTube it when we can. If you connected with other messages while you were listening to my interpretation and messages that were coming through me for that reading, I would love for you to share your thoughts down in that comment section below. Anything that you want to say, respectfully, please, but whatever. We all have our own choices. Any which way to get a hold of me further will be down in that description box. For the most part, I'm pretty much only on YouTube. So the best way to interact with me is right here, but it'll be down there. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Mina was a silly goose and had reset her whole social media, and so we are just starting to crawl with building our community here. So yeah, if you want to stay up to date with videos as they come out, then I invite you to like this video and subscribe. So stay wild and spooky, but most of all, stay magical. I will see you next time. Until then, take care.